this is so incredibly embarrassing for me to admit. He would criticize me when we were being intimate, and he would literally criticize my body while we were being intimate. He made negative comments about every private area of my body. He would be talking to her, begging for her back, and I would literally be listening to every word. I could hear all of it. He would tell me all the things that he would love to do to me if my body looked a certain way. He would give me just enough to make me feel like I was doing enough and then pull away so that I would be forced to do more. I literally felt like I was going to die. If any of you have ever experienced being cheated on, I literally cannot believe I'm about to film this. I'm like so nervous. Okay, I think I'm procrastinating if I'm being honest. Usually I have like a full-blown script. Not today. I had no idea I was gonna film this when I woke up this morning. I don't know, I'm just feeling it. So I'm just gonna say it's God and do what I need to. Hey guys, welcome back to the House of Hughes. I have literally been staring at myself in the viewfinder for like the past 10 minutes. I'm never gonna feel like I'm ready to film this video, and I think that's just kind of like hit me at this point. I am nervous to film this video. I am nervous the one person in the world that I don't want to watch it is watching it right now. My kids are asleep. I'm low-key praying that they wake up so I can stop filming this video. But I feel like I need to. I feel like there's a reason that I've been through certain experiences. And if I have a sweet little 18-year-old girl with absolutely no self-esteem watching this video is for you, and I want you to keep watching it, and I want you to trust me. For those of you that are new here, my name is Rachel, and usually I am with my two cute little ones, Beckham and Blakely. Today's video is going to be very different than the content that I usually put out. But you guys know me, I try to listen to what God tells me to do, and I feel like I am supposed to share this story. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, I love you. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. And if you're new, or if you just haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to join our house. Hit that red subscribe button down below and hit the little post notification bell right next to it. That will send you a notification every time I upload a video. I have thought about filming this video for so long. I mean, I've thought about it since I created a YouTube channel, and I've even attempted to film it a couple times before, but I never made it through the entire thing, and I just felt like my words were really jumbled and I didn't know exactly what message I was trying to send. And I'll be totally honest with you guys, usually when I do sit down videos like this, you're really familiar with like this background. I have like somewhat of an idea or like an outline of what story I'm gonna tell or what I want to say. And today I am just winging it. I haven't written down like certain instances in chronological order. I am literally just going to jump in and go where the spirit guides me. I have briefly mentioned multiple times, and most of you know that I did experience a very abusive relationship before I met Hunter. In saying that, I do want to put a trigger warning in this video. We are going to be talking about very minimal amounts of physical abuse, but very extreme emotional abuse and mental abuse. I don't know exactly how much detail I want to get into, but usually it's way more than I plan on getting into, so you guys are definitely going to get some tea. However, the reason that I'm filming this video is not for tea. It's not because I just want to tell you guys about myself. The reason that I'm sharing this video is because if I had a video like this to watch, I feel like I could have saved myself from so much heartache. I am going to be praying that this video reaches the people that it needs to reach. As most of you know, I suffered from an eating disorder starting at the age of 17. It started in high school and it was really extreme. I had absolutely no self-esteem. I will leave a little link for you guys right up here for you to check out that video if you would like to, just so you kind of know more so of where my mental space was at this time in my life. Again, I had absolutely no self-esteem, and I had faced a lot of rejection at that point in my life. I think as uncomfortable as that is to admit, that's just like the harsh reality. In high school and when I was younger, I was never like the pretty girl. I was never the cool girl. I definitely had a lot of friends. I was very outgoing. That was just because I think I was genuinely a very nice person, and I just attracted friends because of my emotional connections with people. However, I was like never the girl that the boys were fighting over, and I think deep down I always had a desire to be prettier. I was always comparing myself to other people, which of course led me into that eating disorder. So I was not in a good mental space. I was in my senior year of high school, and at that time I was working 2 jobs. I was working at a tanning center and I was also working at a gym. I wasn't a personal trainer or anything like that at that time. I was just working at the front desk, and I don't really want to give the person that I'm going to be talking about a different name or anything. I'm just going to be saying he and him, and just know that I am referring to my ex-boyfriend. If I'm talking about any other he or him, I will say their name. One afternoon when I was working at the gym, and be mindful I was still in high school at the time, a guy came in and he walked in to get like a pre-workout from the nutrition shop. And I was like, who is that? I was surrounded by high school boys typically, and I saw someone who was obviously more like manly than the boys that I was used to and the guys that I had like crushes on in high school. And I obviously knew absolutely nothing about this person, and so the infatuation was at an all-time high. When he walked over to the front desk, I immediately knew that he was just a charmer. He was complimenting of me, complimented my smile, and I think he knew that it made me weak in the knees, which is really devastating, that literally anyone giving me any compliment from any guy that was deemed good looking at all made me feel good about myself, because I just had no self-worth at the time. He did his workout, I continued to work my shift, and he and I exchanged numbers on his way out. I am literally so embarrassed to say this, but I was literally like in shock that he thought that I was cute. And that just makes me want to go back and give myself the biggest hug ever, because obviously I look back and I was a beautiful person going through some really terrible things internally, and I was just a great victim. We ended up texting a little bit, and then he invited me to come over to his apartment. Keep in mind I was in my senior year of high school and I had barely turned 18, like a month after my 18th birthday. And he was 6 years older than me, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And so there was a very big age gap. He was also doing like steroids, to each their own, but you guys know that I personally believe in being natural and I'm against that. So he just looked like this big guy compared to all of the 18-year-olds that I was surrounded with in high school. And I wasn't getting like the love and attention that I wanted at the time. I'm going to keep the details of this particular part of the story private, but I just want to say like one little thing so you guys can kind of understand without going into too much depth about where I was kind of at. I was a very, very innocent girl. I had lived a very conservative life. And the reason that I mention that is because I think that that played into the manipulation greatly. I just wanted to mention that so you guys have a little bit more context as to who I was and why I was so easily persuaded by him. After we hung out, I felt very, very enticed by him, which is like honestly so embarrassing. I know that a lot of these little tiny comments might come across as like kind of rude, but like trust me, they're warranted. I do not know what spell he put me under, but I absolutely blame it on the fact that I was at the height of an addiction at the time. I had also just barely, a couple months prior, been really rejected by someone I felt I really, really loved at the time, and that has since been totally worked out. But I do think that the rejection from that particular situation in my life contributed to me grabbing and reaching for anything that gave me that fulfillment and love that I needed. The relationship progressed pretty quickly, and he very quickly revealed to me that he had previously been married. And this didn't come across as like a red flag to me. I think divorce is relatively common, and I certainly would never judge somebody for ending their marriage. And I think that's a very personal topic. And so I was definitely mature enough at the time to just think, I'm grateful he's being honest with me, and that's not a red flag at this point. But obviously, if we were going to get into a more serious relationship, I would want to know the details of that divorce and what it entailed, if I could potentially be a next wife. Because the relationship progressed really quickly, it wasn't long after that that I found out that he had actually cheated on his wife with a woman that he met at the gym, and his wife had been pregnant at the time. So that is why they got divorced. At this point, I obviously had sirens and red flags going off in my mind, And my sweet soul just had literally zero backbone and just thought, I can't end this relationship because nobody else will love me. Nobody else will want to be with me. People change. I'm a good person. I can fix him. I can forgive him. He wants forgiveness so badly. I totally understand why his wife divorced him, but I will be a new start for him. No, that was an absolutely devastating and incorrect way to think, but that is how I was thinking at the time. Obviously, he painted this picture of him being so sorrowful and that he would never do it again, but he was also very conveniently blaming things on his ex-wife, like their sexual intimacy. And I was a smart woman. I've also always been a girl's girl, and it wasn't in my nature to hate another woman, especially someone who had wrong done to them. So even though I was like the new girlfriend and I was trying to look past this horrific baggage that he was placing on me, I never had any ill will towards his ex-wife, and I viewed her as a victim, and I was very sad for her. But obviously another big piece of that was that she was still pregnant at the time because they were very recently divorced, which I did not know. So I am gonna be like totally honest, I literally don't even know when their divorce finalized. I think that they were just separated at the time that we met. And then once we were exclusive, their divorce had finalized. So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick little timeline so you can keep up with me. He split from his wife in April. No. He split from his wife in February, I believe. I hope I'm not wrong. I believe his ex-wife is gonna watch this, who is not the person that I was referring to, who I didn't want to have see it. I absolutely love and adore her. You guys will hear more about that in a few moments. So shout out to you, you're a queen. I think they separated in February and their divorce finalized like a few months later because things were really, really quick. I literally was like this during that whole process. I kid you not, I had like no concept of what was actually happening. And that's sad to say, but I was just like such a sheltered girl that I was just like, honestly so passive, which is so unlike me now. Hunter's probably like dying laughing thinking about that. Not about the sadness that I was enduring, but just about me being passive because I'm a feisty little one. For those of you that know me now, you know how true that is. Of course, with his ex-wife being pregnant, they were still in contact about the baby. And honestly, our relationship was really new. So even though we were exclusive and I did actually move in with him basically immediately, which was so unlike me and actually due to circumstances at home that aren't really relative. But I did live with him. We became exclusive in April or May of that year. And then I was full-blown living with him by the summer. His daughter was born in August, and to respect her privacy, I don't want to talk too much about her, but she is just an absolute angel. I never had the privilege of meeting her, but I have had the privilege of meeting his ex-wife, and she is absolutely amazing. I would love for you guys to comment below if you would like her and I to do a YouTube video together talking about having an abusive relationship with the exact same person and now becoming good friends afterwards. I think that's a pretty cool twist on the story. So spoiler alert, I do absolutely love her. When my ex-boyfriend had his baby and his ex-wife went into labor, he drove about 4 hours to where she was delivering, and he met the baby, I believe. That was one of the first times that I kind of picked up on the fact that he was obviously lying to me, because he had this really great way of every time he told me something super horrible and negative that I was bound to find out, he had this way of presenting it like, look how honest I am. I've changed. I'm being incredible by telling you all of this when I know it could cause you to leave me. But I was finding text messages on his phone between him and his ex-wife totally appropriate on her end. She was a complete victim in all of this. But obviously he was begging for her back. I actually heard him one night out on the balcony. He had left the bed that I was sleeping in to go talk to her. Every single thing that I say, like, she is perfectly in the right. Hello, she was literally about to have his child. So I did backtrack just a tiny bit there, but he would be talking to her, begging for her back, and I would literally be listening to every word. I could hear all of it. He just didn't care about me. He didn't care about what I heard, and I was just like this innocent young 18-year-old who had absolutely no self-esteem, who got herself into a relationship that was very quickly going from 0 to 100 and not in a good way. Like I said, he went down to see the baby, and I had already picked up on the fact that obviously he wished that his ex-wife would take him back. He wanted to be with her, but then he was also telling me everything that was wrong with the relationship and how terrible she was, which I absolutely hate saying because that is absolutely not true. She's amazing. I will not stop saying that. I was just so confused. I had never been involved with someone the way that I was involved with him. And when he was down visiting his baby, he was texting me and he got into a car accident, and he told me this like whole elaborate story, and I put the pieces together, and he was obviously literally staring at another woman in a parking lot, and he hit a giant pole. So that's a little bit ironic and funny now, but it sure wasn't funny then when I realized, you're obviously lying to me. He was a terrible liar. And I was catching him in these little white lies constantly, but I was so passive that I literally wouldn't say anything because I was so afraid it would cause an argument. When he got home, he tried to work things out with his ex-wife and his daughter and being able to see her, but he gave it little to no effort and refused to pay child support, and told his ex-wife that if he couldn't have her, then he didn't want his daughter either, which is absolutely devastating. I can't even imagine what she went through hearing that, especially being a mother now. But I think that everyone in the situation agrees that it was absolutely in the best interest of that sweet little girl for her to have the beautiful family that she has now with his ex-wife and her new husband. Once again, that's not really my story to tell, so I am going to go ahead and just end those details there about that particular part of the situation. But moving forward after that point, my ex-boyfriend had given up all of his rights and his daughter was no longer in his life, so I didn't have any involvement in that situation. When he told me that he was giving up his rights, honestly, I was very shocked. I'm a very maternal person. I've always wanted kids, and it made absolutely no sense to me. But there was a huge contributing factor in our relationship that caused me to be so passive, and that was absolute fear, to be completely honest. Him and I fought every single day, and we were fighting over things that were very, very valid. I started making decent money at the time. I was working in like somewhat of a sales position. He would actually manipulate me into paying off certain things for him that he had financed. For example, I would go to like places that you can get like a paycheck or payday loan, and I would literally just like pay off the amount for him to surprise him, and I would come home and just give him the receipt, and he literally wouldn't even say thank you. He wouldn't say anything to me. He would also say like, oh, I'm so stressed out about money. I know there's something so much greater I could be doing with my life. Like, how am I ever going to pay off this couch or this bed? I don't know who finances a couch and a bed, but to each their own. I was very sympathetic, and I would have literally done anything for him to give me attention and for him to like me. And I feel like I was fighting for his attention throughout the entirety of the relationship. Like after we were living together, after we were exclusive, I was still trying to win him over. I was in this constant state of trying to prove that I was worthy to be his girlfriend. So I would make these payments on like his couch and his bed, not like the entirety of it. And I do want to say that I never paid rent when I was living with him. I lived there for free, and I do want to paint like a very accurate picture for you guys. I'm never going to like exaggerate the situation or exaggerate how negative it was. I just want to be super real with you so you know what I was living through. But he would manipulate me into paying for legitimately everything except for rent. But then on weekends, I was underage and he was not. He would go out drinking, and he would spend hundreds of dollars on alcohol in one night. I even got my wisdom teeth replaced, and while I was bandaged and wrapped up that very day, he came in, checked on me, and said, "Deuces, I am going to the bar. I'll see you at 2 a.m. So that is just how our relationship went. He did whatever he wanted. He had absolutely no remorse and was in a constant state of manipulating me. He would give me just enough to make me feel like I was doing enough and then pull away so that I would be forced to do more, like constantly buy him gifts, constantly give him surprises. I was just constantly fighting for that attention. That kind of goes into why I always felt like I never had the initial attention, and that started with when I was paying off of his couch and his bed. I knew the password to his account so I could get in there and pay it for him. I obviously put 2 and 2 together, and when I realized he was a serial cheater because he literally would break his neck looking at anything that walked when we were in any public place right in front of me with no regard for my feelings, I thought probably wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to check his Facebook messages, check his phone. I know that everyone has a different opinion on that, but I was obviously in the right doing so because he obviously had a lot to hide. So when he was at work, I logged into his Facebook one day and he had messages on messages talking to other girls, telling them how sexy they were, how hot they were, saying that he wanted to meet up with them. And I literally felt like I was going to die. If any of you have ever experienced being cheated on, you know that that feeling is so gut-wrenching and devastating. There are truly like no words to describe it. And I would literally bring it up. We would get in a massive fight. He would tell me I had no right to look through his stuff, that I was so insecure. He would threaten to break up with me. And somehow at the end of the argument, I was begging him to stay with me, which is devastating. And I'm sure every single one of you listening to this right now is like, wow, that is so sad. You can see how wrong that is. Yet I'm sure so many of you can sadly relate to this scenario. There were multiple occasions that I caught him cheating. I actually found out that he saved one of his ex-girlfriends, which I don't know how he was with so many people between his ex-wife and me, because it was literally like a 2-month time period from the separation to meeting me, which I of course did not know at the time. But he actually saved a girl's number in his phone under a different name, the name Derek, I'll never forget. I read through the messages and he was calling her sexy and hun and sweetheart. And I said, dude, unless you've got something massive to tell me, I'd bet my bottom dollar that this dude's name isn't Derek. So I actually took my phone, called the number, a girl answered, and it was exactly who I thought it was. She was also married. Even then, we got in a massive fight, and by the end of it, I was begging him to stay with me. There were also occurrences where I would be at work, I would come home, and I would find out that one of his ex-girlfriends had actually been over to our apartment. And I said, well, what happened? What did you guys do? And he just said, oh, you know, she was just stopping by, seeing how I was. We just talked. He was an absolute sex addict, which I have concrete evidence of, which I'll go more into later. And I just thought, I'm sure you just talked. And I was literally so low and thought so little of myself that I wouldn't even argue him, and I would just cry myself to sleep knowing that he had just had sex with someone minutes before. That was a huge part of our relationship, was the constant lying, the constant cheating. He would constantly tell me that he had never cheated on me, even though I had absolute concrete evidence. I'm also not stupid. He had a history and pattern of cheating, and I was finding evidence. I knew he was cheating on me. I didn't need an admission of guilt for that to be concrete for me. It still was just not enough to make me walk away. I do want to say that something that is very common for addicts is when I was living with him, my addiction, because it was primarily bulimia, was very suppressed. And I fully believe, along with my therapist, that I actually replaced my addiction of bulimia to an addiction to him. I was so attached to him, and that's the word that I use now, because whatever I felt for him was in no way, shape, or form love, and it was absolute attachment, desperation, and I've obviously come to realize that now through a lot of therapy. Another huge part of our relationship was the very, very sad emotional abuse that I endured. I will share just a few examples of what this looked like. He was very addicted to sex and pornography, and he made sure to tell me what was expected of me as a woman. He would actually say to me that the reason he broke his neck looking at everything that walked was because monogamy was not natural, that he could do whatever he wanted. He would also tell me that when a man looks at a woman, the first thing he thinks about is what her looks like. He told me that when two people are in a relationship, it's only natural that you're gonna step out on each other because you get bored. This is devastating and so incredibly embarrassing for me to admit, and makes me so angry that anyone ever thought it was okay to say this to another human being. But he would criticize me when we were being intimate, and he would literally criticize my body while we were being intimate. He made negative comments about every private area of my body, and I have had to work really, really hard to come to realize that those comments are disgusting and not true, and that I am a beautiful woman. He also just really skewed my mind into thinking that men were quite literally just disgusting pigs. He literally told me that nobody would ever want to be with me. No one would ever put up with what he did, even though it was like quite literally nothing. I was literally the most passive person in that relationship. And just because I would say, "Hi, are you cheating on me because I found these messages and it looks like you did?" that was really obviously uncomfortable and offensive to him. And so nobody else, I guess, would put up with that. He would make horrific comments about my skin, my makeup. He would tell me all the things that he would love to do to me if my body looked a certain way. He actually had the audacity to go to his ex-girlfriend and buy weight loss pills and bring them home to me as a gift, even though I had never asked for them, and he knew that I was in eating disorder treatment. He quite literally did absolutely everything that he could to make sure that I felt ugly, disgusting, unworthy, unwanted, unloved. And honestly, if there's one compliment I can give him, he is an absolute master manipulator and did a great job of doing just that. The relationship went on for 2 years. We did have one small breakup in between, and I actually started to get my footing after about a month, and then he came right back into my life and manipulated me once again. I know that I've said I was manipulated multiple times, and obviously you guys can see the abuse that I endured. But I also want to say, like, of course, I did have my free will. I just wasn't using it to the best of my ability, and I highly regret that. But I think that a lot of that was very circumstantial. The very last thing I want to touch on before I wrap up this video is the physical abuse that I endured. Up until literally months ago, I referred to the relationship as only ever being emotionally and mentally abusive, which is sadly untrue. I diminished the parts of the relationship that were physically abusive because I saw others in physical abusive relationships and knew that my situation wasn't nearly as bad. For any of you that have endured severe physically abusive relationships, I want to say that I love you so much. I have absolutely no idea how you feel, and I am so devastated that you ever experienced that. No one should ever have a hand laid on them in aggression. And although my situation was very minimal compared to most, I still want to touch on it lightly because it was a part of my experience. I would be held and cornered when we were arguing. I actually had a fist to the face that was accidental. It nicked my chin when he went to grab my wrist, and it was with a closed fist, and I did get a big bruise. I actually took photos of it to show my parents. However, at the time, I literally just kept saying to myself, he didn't mean to. It was an accident. His intent wasn't to punch me in the face. Although when we fought, he would punch walls right next to my face behind me. He would punch them, and it was very, very physically intimidating. He would also punch the steering wheel, and I was smart enough to know that obviously the walls and items that he was punching, he wished were me. He would grab me, hold me out of aggression, but I do want to say and be very upfront that I was never hit on a daily basis or anything like that. But after going to the therapy that I've gone through, I've been told by professionals, and also know because of some of the memories that I have suppressed but have come back to me through EMDR therapy, that this relationship, although to a very mild extent, was physically abusive. I would definitely say it was severely mentally and emotionally abusive. There is so much that I didn't disclose in this video because I'm just not ready to talk about every little tiny thing. And there were some things that were honestly like so embarrassing for me because I was so used and abused, and some of the things that were said were so derogatory that it's honestly so embarrassing to say them on camera. But I tried to give as much detail as I'm comfortable with right now. But I have to end this video with talking to anyone who is currently in a physically, mentally, or emotionally abusive relationship. No matter how mild your abuse is compared to others, it is valid. You deserve to be in a relationship that is loving and fulfilling, where you are never ever fearful. My ex-boyfriend told me that I would never find a man who loved me, was obsessed with me, was loyal to me, who wanted to have my children, who didn't look at other women, who wasn't addicted to pornography. And I have quite literally proved him wrong in every aspect of my life. You guys know Hunter is the best man I have ever known. He is quite literally obsessed with me, in love with me, has never once made a derogatory comment, not just about me, but about any woman. He has never spoken ill of another woman and the way she looks, or the way she talks, or the way that she is. And men like that do exist, and you are worthy of them. I also want you to know that your life will go on. Leaving a situation that you are addicted to, attached to, is not simple. It can feel very unsafe. It can feel very scary. I'm sure that you feel like all of the things that that person imprinted on you and ingrained in your brain is true, but I need you to know that it is not, that you are wrong. Those things are not true, and there is access to help. If you don't have a support system, please email me. Please message me on Instagram. I will respond to you. I will help you. I will help you find a support system, even if that support system is me alone. Everyone is worthy of being safe and feeling loved and feeling happy. I have been so hesitant to share my experience because, one, part of me still feels like all of my feelings aren't valid. And I know that that is his disgusting voice in the back of my head. Part of me doesn't want him to see this video because he did stalk me for months after we broke up, and I know that he still looks at my social media. But I've come to realize that I have nothing but pride for where I am sitting and what I am saying today. Look at my life. I won. No one can take your power away from you. It's okay to admit that you need help. And today, I want you to be brave like Beckham and put yourself first and get the help that you need. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I will continue updating you on the therapy and EMDR that I'm doing specifically for the situation. Also, let me know in the comments if you would be interested in seeing me do a Q&A with his ex-wife. And I am going to be doing another video on how I ended up leaving the relationship and the steps that I took afterwards to ultimately find my husband now. So that is going to be in part 2. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit that red subscribe button down below, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.